I'm just going to try and make the link back to what we said, what Vivian Robertson said about you participating in professional learning. That what you're doing then is modelling that you are a learner as well. That's creating the culture. That's the symbolic representation, really, that you see learning as important and you're going to give up your valuable time to be involved in it. But what does it mean for a teacher in the classroom? If I want learning to happen, what do I have to model in the classroom? If I want higher order thinking to be happening, if I want there to be good relationships in the classroom, what is it that I have to be doing and modelling all the time that is actually giving the messages that I want to give to the kids that I'm actually involved with? So that's really, I think, the main message from social cognition. The other ones are then really the information processing theories. And again, I'm only going to go through quickly, but this is really trying to look more at neuroscience and how the brain works. These theories, and I guess I'm arguing now, we all need to know something about how the brain works. We can't get away as educators without some knowledge of how the brain puts together information. What are neural networks? How does memory get stored? Memory is a critical part of all of this, because if I don't, as a teacher, get kids to move stuff into long-term memory, I won't get a change in behaviour. It's moving it from short-term, from working memory, into long-term memory that's critical. What do I have to do as a teacher to get kids to move things into long-term memory? There's a couple of things I can do. At a very low level, I can do rote learning. There's nothing in my book, there's nothing wrong with rote learning for some things. And I can chant, I can set it to music, there's all sorts of things. But for conceptual knowledge, because we all know rote learning doesn't give us conceptual knowledge, for conceptual knowledge, nothing will move into long-term memory unless it makes sense. What your brain basically says, if I've got buckets of stuff coming into my head all the time, I'm taking in information. I can't move it all into long-term memory because I haven't got the capacity to move it all into long-term memory. What I'm going to move into long-term memory are the things that make sense, that are connected in with other pieces of information, that enable me to form complex understandings and complex webs, complex conceptual webs of information. So as an educator, I must know about memory. I must know what are the strategies I can use to help kids move work into memory. John Munro has probably done heaps of work on that. He's probably, I'd say, one of the people I've learnt most from in terms of strategies to actually help kids move things into memory. And absolutely critical. And again, lots of people, but words that you might hear. We talk about schema, that kids are creating schema in their heads and schemata. Mental models that they might have in their heads. When you're doing strategies like concept maps, this is exactly what you are doing. A teacher who's doing concept mapping with kids is trying to help kids really replicate what's happening in the brain. You're trying to form the connections, and really the more connections I can form between information, the more likely I'm to remember it and the deeper my learning will be. So what this is saying for us as teachers really is we have to understand what's the processing we have to get happening in kids' heads if they're actually going to move things into long-term memory. What do I need to be doing? What are the thinking tools? What are the strategies? What's the metacognitive work I need to be doing with kids to get it into long-term memory. And the last one is really constructivist theory. And again, this one has been critical. This is one of the ones that gets bagged a lot, often. And I think one of the things you have to understand about constructivism, which many of you will, is it's a theory of learning. It is not a pedagogy. It's a theory about how learning happens, and it's an incredibly powerful theory for us to understand.